Hi everyone. This is Gaming Banter with David and Ryan.
Oh,
And thanks for coming again. This is episode 5. We've been doing this for 5 weeks now. And so we have a special guest with us this week, Brianna,
hello.
and obviously there's David,
Hello.
or as I kindly refer to him as Double D. You know. But anyways, so today we're going to be talking about a lot of different topics. First, we're going to start off with talking about Disney Infinity versus Skylanders because this week Disney Infinity is coming out, and then we're going to move on to some issues they're having, and then the big question of the day is going to be game franchises that have had the best effect on Hollywood or worst effect, whichever you prefer. So there's a lot of them out there, so stay tuned for that. And then, and by the way, finally the big drought of the summer is over, and we have some good games coming out. So we're just going to go ahead and dive into things. So Disney Infinity coming out, I think today. Is that right, David?
Let me see. Disney Infinity. Did it come out today? It came out today or yesterday?
Monday? Comes out
Yesterday?
Monday?
Yeah.
Yesterday. Yeah. Okay, so came out yesterday, and so what do you think about that, David? I mean, did you play Skylanders at all?
I haven't played either one. I think, and I could be wrong. People might get mad, but I think it maybe is aimed towards a younger audience. But I'm not totally sure. It could end up being something that, a couple weeks from now, I'm like, I love it. It's the best game I've ever played. Because I haven't really dabbled with it. But it's interesting. I know they had some problems on the launch where essentially when you tried to use because for people who don't know, Skylander and Disney Infinity are games, I guess sandbox style games or maybe fighting games. I think Skylander is more of a fighting game, where you actually get little action figures and put them on this little peripheral, this little pedestal, and then it tells what action figure it is and puts that character in the game. And which is a little weird to me. I like to play League of Legends, and you can just get characters in the game with either experience that you earn in the game or by purchasing them, and you don't have to have 30 little action figures sitting around to then use those characters. But I know they had some problems. At first, it would freeze when you put a character on. When you tried to install one of your characters, it would then freeze. And that was, I think, happening yesterday on launch. And then I think from an article you found, it's fixed now. Is that right?
Yeah. So they were having a problem on PS3 where I think when they stuck the character on the peripheral, it would freeze the game. And so they released a fix, I guess, to get that done. But I don't know. It's an interesting concept. When we were at E3, it had huge lines, and honestly, for me, the game didn't seem overly interesting. But I guess it's kind of a way for parents to play with toys of their kids.
Get their kids
I
to have
actually
real
like the
toys.
idea of it for kids because kids can have both that physical, tangible realness of a toy and then be able to use it for a video game, so they can kind of carry that character with them, whether they're playing the video game or as kids tend to be traveling, whether just really or on the road trips with parents, and they can take that with them without constantly being plugged in. So I think actually that's a really interesting marketing move on the game's part.
Yeah, it's a very versatile figure, then instead of me buying a million toys for my kid, I can just buy him one and then he can play it on a video game. Done. Uh, but yeah, no. I mean, what do you guys think in terms of Disney Infinity versus Skylanders?
That's
David.
that's a hard one. Just based on not playing either one, so to know exactly which one is maybe going to capture the market, which one has new features, better features. Disney definitely has kind of the bankroll and the name. I don't know who produced Skylanders, if it's a big company, Capcom or something, or if they kind of their own little startup, or who's running it. I know it's been around for a while. I know there's a lot of them out there. They have a lot more stuff than just the game. They've got Skylander backpacks I've seen kids with and stuff like that. So they are being able to franchise, or kind of make money outside of just the game. And they've definitely been around for a while. So it's one of those things where if you already have 7 or 8 of these figures, it's hard to want to transfer to a different system. Um,
Yeah, it's
so
it's it's Activision that has that's publishing it. So I mean, they've got a really big
Activision.
thing behind it, and they're doing like this at E3. They were showcasing this ability to switch, so you could use like the bottom half of one character and the top half of another. So it it's going to be interesting to see kind of where that goes. But I don't know. What do you think, Brianna? Skylanders or Disney Infinity?
I would say I probably agree with David on that. I've seen a lot more merchandising with Skylanders, and I actually know quite a few people who have that. So I think in order for the Disney Infinity to get a hold, they'd have to really push. But then again, we always know that Disney is big on marketing, so I think it could be done, but I think it might be an issue possibly of whether they're using new characters or pre-established characters. If they're, I'm not sure which Disney's using, but if they're using their own characters from various Disney movies or TV shows, I think that probably has the potential to take off a lot more than Skylanders, just because they already have an established fan base in that.
Yeah, it's all like Jack Sparrow and what's his name from The Incredibles. Like I think you can pretty much any character
Mr.
out there.
Incredible.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I forgot. I was trying to think of his real name. I'm sorry. Uh,
Bob Carr, I think.
but anyways, enough on that. Let's move on to new games that are going to be coming out and ending the video game drought. So this week in the big ones we have. Let me verify here. Uh, Obviously, Disney Infinity was actually Sunday, um, so it wasn't yesterday. Um, Something, Sir, You Are Being Hunted on PC was on Monday. Saints Row 4, which is going to be hilarious,
It does look funny.
is today. The Bureau XCOM Declassified is today, and Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell Blacklist is today. Also, Walking Dead is moving to PS Vita. I believe that's the original Walking Dead game, which that makes sense. And then Dive Kick, yeah, Dive Kick is moving today as well. Wednesday we have Flashback, and then Thursday we have Skullgirls. So a bunch of games. Any of those excite you, David?
I was checking out the Saints Row, and that does look pretty funny. I like games that you have a nice challenge and you're playing the game, but also they keep it entertaining. I think sometimes they try to get too philosophical or deep with their stories, and unless they do a good job of it, it's just a lot of cut scenes I kind of want to skip. Like a lot of times you're like, oh, there's like a lot of banter here that would just be better done in a movie. And so I just let me play the gameplay. But if it's funny, then it's fun because you're playing the game and there's funny stuff going on and bosses are saying funny stuff while you're fighting them, and so it keeps it a little more entertaining. So yeah, I like that a lot. Jump Kick seems interesting. I feel like there's been a lot of games I've played that should have been named Jump Kick because it's just
Dive
a good
Kick.
way to get through waves.
Dive Kick.
Dive Kick. Oh, don't Google the wrong thing. Yeah, I did dive kick. But yeah, you're jumping and kicking and jumping and kicking to get through waves of enemies. So yeah, that definitely seems like a good time as well.
That just kind of reminds me of like Mortal Kombat whenever, or just name any fighting game where they shout something as they're like throwing a fireball at you. In this case, it's just constantly dive kick, dive kick, dive kick.
Do they say it every time? I don't know if I could
I
deal
don't
with
know,
that.
but that would be amazing.
Sounds like a game that somebody came up with at like 3 in the morning with that exact thing in mind. Remember all these games where they had this one catchphrase? Let's do an entire game just like that.
Oh man, I think the video recognizes the absurdity of their concept, and they're cracking up about it. So I think it's hilarious. I would almost buy it just because yeah, I think that's hilarious.
Is it like is it a cartridge game or is it like a indie game?
Well, I think it started off as an indie game, and it's on PC, but they're also going to be putting it on PlayStation.
Huh.
I want to say PlayStation 4 and 3, but it might just be PlayStation 4 or 3. I need to look at the game and verify that. But anyways, yeah, it's part of the indie game movement that PlayStation's moving towards with the new console. So, what do you think,
Huh.
Brianna? What's a game that you are most interested in for the next week?
I actually have to confess, nothing captured my attention specifically, but I'm very picky, so.
All right, well that's fine. I'd say for me, Saints Row. It's got to be Saints Row. I mean, that game is just the franchise is just ridiculous, and um, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do with it. I remember sitting at E3 watching the trailer over and over and over again on like this big screen. Didn't really have a choice. I was waiting in line to see Thief, and it was on a massive like 20,000 by 20,000 screen or 20,000 inch screen. That's a more appropriate. And it was like it's like you're at a rock concert with a subwoofer right in your face, and so that was fun. But anyways, on to the next question. So now we're just gonna move on to questions with Brianna. So Brianna, so first of all, everybody that's watching and listening, Brianna is a cosplayer. She goes to a bunch of different events, has done some photo shoots on Tomb Raider specifically,
Mhm.
and so we thought it'd be really interesting to kind of pick her brain a little bit and see kind of a little bit into that world. So I guess first of all, Brianna. Oh, and by the way, her channel slash Facebook page is the Lady Nerd. So check out the Lady Nerd if you like that. So, but anyway, so what got you into cosplay?
I got into cosplay back in about 2007. At least that's when I was first introduced to the concept of cosplay. I'd always known about costuming, but I hadn't heard about the convention circuits and Dragon Con and Comic Con or any of that. But in college, I had a lot of friends that were into the Final Fantasy series, and I was really getting into Final Fantasy VII, and I loved the redesign that they did in Advent Children for Tifa, and so that was the first cosplay I ever wanted to do. Sadly, to this day, I still haven't done it. It's on the books, but from there, I started opening up into the world of costuming and cosplay, and it's just kind of been rolling from there. This is the first year, like this year and last year were the first years I actually got to do cosplay due to the people that I was around. Because beforehand, I didn't know how to sew. I didn't have anybody who did costuming, so it was a lot of the dreaming. And now I actually get to do that. So it's been quite an experience.
So I'm gonna go a little bit off script here, but what other characters have you cosplayed before?
I did a closet cosplay of Selena Kyle. That surprisingly went over really well at the conventions, even though the costume was not accurate. It was literally just stuff from my closet. But I did the outfit that Anne Hathaway wears in the train scene from The Dark Knight Rises with the big Audrey Hepburn hat. Um, let's see, there's another big one maybe. With the Vogue style Loki, I got talked into doing a female Avengers group, which I was like, eh, yeah, okay. Because they wanted to do, my friends wanted to do cocktail dresses at the time. I was like, I'm not taking cocktail dresses. And they're like, you're doing Loki. There's no negotiation about this. I'm like, okay, well, for one, Loki probably wouldn't wear a cocktail dress. Everybody else wore cocktail. He would go for the tortilla in a gown. So I designed a full gown and did that for the full photo shoot with that. That was a lot of fun at Dragon Con last year. So many stories.
Yeah, that photo shoot turned out cool. I like that the Loki one that I saw. Did you end up doing the female Iron Man? Were you going to be part of the Avengers, the female Avengers?
I got through some of the process of making. Actually, no, my friend made the mask. We were working on the gauntlet, but unfortunately didn't get past a certain point because he started moving on to many other costumes. That's the problem with being a cosplayer and being interested in many different things. There's 7 million costume projects going on for that year, and only 2 of them actually happen.
And so then basically at some point you finish like 19 costumes in the same week, and then it's like, well, now I have all these costumes to wear.
I will let you know if that ever happens to me.
So why'd you choose Tomb Raider?
I have had a love affair with Tomb Raider since I was quite young. She's my favorite video game character probably of all time. I grew up on the Tomb Raider games because I love Indiana Jones. I love adventure, fun adventure and adventure games, and so um, it was really cool and neat when I found out about turmeric. I was like, oh, she's like a female Indiana Jones. This is awesome. And so I went playing the games, and I was very interested in the new design because I always wanted to costume as Lara Croft, but I didn't quite have the body, didn't quite have the nice mature face, it didn't quite work. So I was like, oh, I'll do a young version of Tomb Raider, and then lo and behold, a new game came out, and as soon as I saw the concept art, I was like, doing it. And then just kind of went from there.
So, do you have any of those pictures that you can show us?
Yes, I do. Let me select my screen share here. That works. Start screen share. Is that working?
It's coming up, yeah.
Yay. So this is the photo shoot that I did April of this year. It was a group effort between me and Dim Horizon Studio that did the pictures. Matt Silva of Black Tie Effects, who did this wonderful makeup you see here. And then I had a lot of help from friends on doing the costumes. This was my first time actually distressing and building a costume to be more movie level. Because I wanted it not just to be screen accurate, but be able to be believable in a sort of movie-esque setting. We got to shoot at a place called Cloudland Canyon up in North Georgia. It had this beautiful waterfall. Yeah, that bow was so much fun to make. Actually got some archery pointers because I was like, I don't want to be that one person on the internet with a bow and people go, she doesn't know how to shoot.
Is it a functioning bow? Does it shoot?
Yeah, actually, it can shoot this arrow about 10 feet. Yeah, I got so dirty. I didn't realize that my skin was highly absorbent, and so it took me about 3 days to get that dirt off. I looked like a hobo. But one of the with this picture, one of the things that I really wanted to do with this photo shoot was not just to do a typical portrait session. I wanted to bring in a lot more emotion and more believability in building the character, and not just it being a costume. And I was like, beautiful watercolor. Yeah, we had a lot of fun with it. I had a script actually for it, and if you go on my Lady Nerd Facebook page, you'll actually see the story that goes along with the pictures. So,
Well, so you actually had like a story that you all wrote out for to kind of explain. Okay, cool.
Yeah, because we wanted it to be like a. Okay, there we go. We wanted it to be like a short film, but without having all of the pains of video where you have to have a lot more involved with that with lighting and audio, and we just thought it would be a lot easier and easier to manipulate and control with doing still photography.
So, what would you say was your favorite part of the shoot?
The looks on people's faces when they would see me. We had a Boy Scouts troop that actually stumbled upon us in the middle of shooting, and just having all these like 12 to 15-year-old boys just standing there staring, going, "Oh my gosh, is this really happening right in front of me?" So funny. Or the little old ladies who found me in the bathroom when I was putting different costume pieces on, and they saw the makeup, and they were honest to goodness concerned for my safety. Or the patrons of the restaurant that we went to afterwards, and I still had the makeup on. It was like, I want food. I don't want to take this off. I want food. It's like a 15-hour shoot. I'm hungry. And I mean, I knew I was going to get looks, but yeah, most people were just like, okay. We're in downtown Chattanooga, and we stopped to eat, so yeah, and the manager of the restaurant came over to have to ask if everything was okay. They figured since I was moving about that I wasn't actually injured. Of course, looking back on it, I should have just told them, I just won the Hunger Games. It's alright.
I won.
So, Do you have any ideas for like future photo shoots or costumes or anything like that?
Oh, always. That's part of my blessing and my curse. I always have a million ideas going on at any given time. But the main one I'm working on next is actually Catwoman and Selena Kyle. But I'm wanting to go to the level that I did with Tomb Raider and creating a more realistic version with a storyline. And what I'm wanting to do is do an origins story, since there's 5 or 12 different origin stories for Catwoman. I kind of wanted to pick the parts that I liked from each and then create a new full storyline for that.
Cool. So, I mean, what do you have anything you want to ask, David?
Um, no, I think it's interesting. I don't know as much about costuming. I've not really tried it at all, so I'm not as informed on the topic. But yeah, they turned out great.
Well, so again, her Facebook page is the Lady Nerd, and I think you also have a Twitter handle. Is that correct?
Mm-mm.
And
No,
that's no, you don't. Okay.
no tweeting for me.
So check out the Lady Nerd, and you can see all of her projects and everything like that. And so we're super happy to have you here. But let's kind of transition into the final question, and just say, okay, so since we're kind of on the subject, which game franchises do we all think have had the greatest effect on Hollywood or just movies in general? And so we'll pass it over to David first.
All right, it was interesting. I was actually having a conversation about that at a friend's birthday party because just 2 nights ago I watched Silent Hill 2. I'm a big fan of the Silent Hill art, monster design and stuff like that. I think they come up with some really good, like, neat, creepy styles, like the nurses and stuff like that. And yeah, so I've watched both movies. The first movie was okay, and the second movie was terrible. It was so bad. There were characters introduced in the first movie, like that you kind of maybe cared about, and then they were killed. And so you kind of cared that they died and stuff like that. But there's like one scene in Silent Hill 2 where there's a mannequin like spider monster. It's like a monster that's made its body out of mannequin parts, but it kind of moves around like a spider. And there's a lady trapped in like saran wrap, kind of like a spider web of mannequin saran wrap. I don't know. And she ends up saving her out of there. Even though the monster's like coming, and she like saves them. They get out, and she runs, and she's like, "How did you get here?" And the lady who she saves is like, "I got lost in the fog." And then the spiders coming, so they run towards the vent, and then the lady she saves gets grabbed by the spider. And not even that's another thing. It's a horror movie, but you never saw people really violently killed or anything like that, or even jump scenes. Like she gets grabbed by the spider and pulled away, and then the main character gets away. And I was like, oh, I thought she was going to have like an ally for a while that you'd get to know and then would die. But like you meet her, you find out she got lost in the fog is her backstory, and then she disappears. You don't even see like a gross murder scene. You get nothing out of that whole scene outside of seeing the monster design, which is cool. And then you never see it again. And I was just like, and the whole movie just moves really rapidly and explains itself really obviously. Like there's some people you're not sure if they're bad guys or if they're on our side, which is actually a joke because they're bad guys even though they seem like they're on our side at first. Yeah, I don't know. So that was really poorly done, which is a disappointment. But so let's see. So wait, we're saying the question is most
Influential
influential.
or worst, I guess, in this case.
Maybe I can teach Holly
What not to do when moving a video game to movies?
Oh, I think I can chime in on that one. Final Fantasy as a children. While I do love that movie, it very much felt more like a video game, like a progression of cutscenes rather than a movie. So unfortunately, you could tell that it was made by people who did video games and not movies. It had a storyline, but it didn't flow as a film. And so I think that's why it didn't have as big of a mass market appeal as it could have. So I see that movie as having had a lot of potential to kind of fall flat. And so I think a lot of video game movies can run that sort of risk.
Yeah, I think it definitely expected you to know who everybody was. Like there was not a lot of explanation on people's relationships or their interactions. You see Cloud, and you're like, I guess is he a messenger? It seems like, and he maybe delivers things. He's on a bike, but then he's fighting some stuff. And then later, when he's fighting a big thing, a bunch of friends show up, and they're like helping. You know, if you haven't played Final Fantasy VII,
Yeah,
you're
you
not
have
really
no
sure,
idea who they are.
you know,
And that
what's
sucks
going
because
on
there's
there.
such interesting characters, and you didn't get that. I think the most character development I probably got was to Dodge, and possibly Tifa.
Yeah,
Possibly.
I think Tifa had a good amount in there. It's just, yeah, if you didn't play Final Fantasy VII, you have no idea what's going on, and I
It's
don't
just
even know if you would understand the movie. Like, it's kind
mhm.
of like a cinematic trailer for the second movie, or like the second game, like if they were to come out with the Final Fantasy VII too.
Because I
Um,
remember showing Advent Children to my dad because I was like, oh my gosh, Dad, you have to see this. It's beautiful and it's amazing. And I was just going on and on pontificating about it. Dad's like, okay, I'll watch it. And kind of sat down afterwards, like, that was very beautiful. A lot of random fight scenes. I had no idea what was going on.
it's like they're throwing them up in the air. Why are they throwing them up in the air? Like that's one of the
Why
scenes that
is
sticks in my
gravity
head.
and physics not working? I don't understand. It's a huge sword.
Yeah. It's like, I don't feel like that works exactly how he thinks it works. Uh,
Yeah, I would say yeah. If games probably had a big impact on Hollywood, which I think they are kind of in a lot of ways separate genres. It's kind of like saying which athlete has the most like impact on the acting world, and they don't. Athletes sometimes get put in TV shows and try their best to act, you know, and it's often forced and stuff, and they're impacted by the acting world, trying to teach these athletes how to say their lines somewhat realistically, but seldom would there be an athlete who's changing the acting world. A lot of video games, they're good at what they do. Video games are just like an athlete would be very good at athletics. Video games are very good at their purpose of entertaining, but when they cross over into movies, they just try to take lessons from movies and they don't really try to make a ton of changes. Um, but like I do think maybe action scene wise, and things like that. Like there's some pretty good action that can come from video games. And so yeah, I think some of the games that have shined the most are either like the Resident Evil series. I think has done well in that there's been quite a few of them, and they've had pretty good successes. And like it's not like the first one came out in theaters and the second four came out straight to DVD. Like a lot of the Mila Jovovich versions have gone to theater every time and done well enough that they need a next one. And it's because it's action packed, zombie style, cool monsters, fighting and stuff like that. So that's where I think games excel. That also crosses over well into movies. And so anytime it's more of an action game, but a lot of the more like drawn out or complex games or RPG games like Final Fantasy. Unless you know what's going on, it's hard to convey that whole 50-hour game experience of learning about a character into an hour and a half movie and keep it action packed. So I think that's the RPG struggle, the action games, whether it be shooter. Like I'd watch a Halo. I don't see how a Halo could go super wrong. I do think they might have to break it up into like a 2 or 3 part because it's 2 or 3 games as well to kind of break everything down. But if he's running around shooting people and being like a cool guy, you watch that, people will watch that.
yeah, I mean, for me, whenever I look at that, I get concerned. So I mean, I'm a big Halo fan, and you know, I just look at all the game like you look at Doom. Doom's a shooter that you didn't think anybody could screw up, and yeah, it's kind of a scary game, but they messed it up so bad. And I just really get concerned because I love the Halo franchise, and I love the story, at least in Halo 1. Halo 2 kind of went off the tracks, and Halo 3 brought it back, but, it's kind of like, please don't do a Halo movie, because
Yeah.
I'm scared of what you're
Well,
going
because
to do.
they were actually starting a Halo movie because I remember at a workshop in New Zealand was actually making, I think, the Warthog and some of the other um, pieces to the game. But I remember it went the same way as like Neon Genesis Evangelion, where it just kind of like got scrapped.
Mm.
Yeah, I think they did come out with like a Halo movie that was animated, and it was like a combination of multiple clips, and I forget what it was called, but I owned it actually. And I've read a lot of the different Halo books because I'm a big nerd like that. But yeah, don't mess up my games that I love.
I
Don't
think
don't do that.
video games are almost like a lot of like classic literature in a way, like you grew up with it and stuff like that, and you have a very specific view of it, and you see it the way you translated it and the way you played through and what you were feeling when you played the game. And then when they do make a movie version, you're like, that's not who that character was, because like a lot of RPGs and stuff kind of let the character, you form part of the character in your own head. You're playing someone with amnesia trying to figure out who they are. That's a common RPG person, someone trying to find out who they are in the world. And so like when they make stuff like, like Lord of the Rings and stuff like that, a lot of times they end up getting a big budget because they know it'll do well, because Lord of the Rings has such a following before anything ever happened, but they can't get that same budget for a Final Fantasy movie and stuff like. They could make maybe a good Final Fantasy movie that's, three-hour movies, and you say, wow, that really fulfilled how I saw that game going. But they don't have the budget and the interest. Enough people wouldn't go see it because it's not as popular as Lord of the Rings. So for the fans, when they go see it, they say that was a disappointment. That wasn't done as well as it should have been done, because it still, means something to me. I had a connection to that game. I saw a certain way. I've grown up with it. Halo's been around since how long has Halo been around? Like 10 years.
I think it was out. Yeah, it's been over a decade, but yeah, no, I mean, I think to your point, like the Final Fantasy series, if you wanted to make a movie out, of which they did, it's just so fragmented. It's a different story every time. So it's not like the Halo franchise or the Halo universe or various other games where you're continuing on the story with the same character. But
Well, I know they tried that with Prince of Persia, where they were trying to take that from being just a video game and moving that into an actual film where they fleshed out the script and the characters. And I haven't seen it myself, so I don't know if that worked or not. I know that it didn't do well. Although I remember from the trailer, it looked incredibly beautiful. But we know visuals can be done. Stories always where things tend to suffer.
yeah, it was a cool movie. I really liked it. But we're actually out of time, guys.
Oh.
So we have to do our closeout. But so I mean, kind of final thought. Let's start with Brianna.
Final thought on which part? We had
I
a few
guess
topics.
let's still revisit the movie. So final thought on a movie that most affected or was worst for Hollywood.
I don't know about best or worst, but I think like we're seeing a resurgence in the superhero movies and we're finally seeing comics being done justice, I think video games could have their turn. I think that could very well be seen in the future if handled properly.
Just not Halo. Don't do Halo.
Oh.
If you're listening, don't do Halo. Don't disappoint me. Don't make me sad.
Or
David.
maybe they can do Mass Effect and they can redeem themselves from the tragedy that was Mass Effect 3.
Yeah, they've already screwed that up, so that's okay with
Yeah, you have to let the game ruin it first, and then you can make a movie.
me. Yeah.
Instant redemption.
But yeah, I do think it will get better, just like comic movies and stuff. I think when they started getting big name directors who grew up into comic books, it was easier to have a director direct a comic movie, right? Because they had a passion for it and they had a view of it. And so as you get bigger name directors who grew up playing video games more and are more familiar with them, then you could end up producing it where it's more truer to the idea of the games and stuff like that. And I think so often they'll get a director and he's like, so it's like, a magic guy with a big sword fighting people. I can do that. Advent, make a Final Fantasy movie, or so a space guy saving people with guns. Yeah, I'll make a Halo movie. Like, they don't know what it's about. They just kind of look at it and they say that I can get that genre. It's like a sci-fi shooter and go. And so you need someone who played it and cared about it, or at least some genres like it. And more of those are coming out. More and more people play some games, but also balance it with being really successful in other worlds, where before it used to be like, at least the idea of it was gamers would like sit at home and never do anything with their lives, and then other people went on to do things, and we have more hand in hand. People who are time managing, but who need the games to kind of relax and have that enjoyment, but also time managing and having successful lives and creating things.
Yeah, and I guess kind of to that note, if J.J. Abrams wanted to go do the Halo movie, I could be okay with that. Depending on how he does Star Wars, I could be okay. I could be convinced. Um, but Mass Effect, you can give that to M. Night Shyamalan, who ruins movies, and it wouldn't be that much worse.
Turns out it's Shepard with an alien the whole time.
Yeah. But anyways, I guess for me, the one that would probably be both the worst and the best effect on the Hollywood industry would be Mortal Kombat, because Mortal Kombat 1 was a fantastic movie. I really enjoyed it. It showed you the Goro thing, and like Goro's this evil guy, and he was always kind of the big boss for Mortal Kombat in 1. Then they did Mortal Kombat 2 in theaters, and it was just the worst movie ever. Like they killed one of the main characters in the first 10 seconds. It's like, well, that's cool, I guess. Just take him out. But and then absolute worst. Say what?
I said KO'd.
Yeah, completely KO'd.
Yeah, that is the
Fatality.
tricky part about Mortal Kombat is you're going to take a lot of characters people like, and some of them have to die because it's a Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, or yeah, they. I don't know if I agreed with some of the things they did there, but anyway, so that's all the time we have. Thank you for joining us this week, and
Subscribe to the channel.
Subscribe, yeah.
When the
So,
videos come out.
well, we're gonna do it right there. There should be a link for subscribing.
It's on the wrong place.
It'll be somewhere on the screen, we promise. Anyways, so have a wonderful evening, day, night, whatever, and check out the Lady Nerd on Facebook. And thank you very much for joining us. See you guys.
Bye.